नमस्ते। ये रिक्वेस्ट नहीं, ये प्रिविलेज का विषय है। बहुत बड़ा सुयोग है। और मैं क्या कहूँ, महेश्वरी जी के साथ, पापा के साथ जो मेरा हम सब का घनिष्ठ संबंध रहा, बहुत लंबी कहानी है, बहुत सारे अनुभव हैं, बहुत सारी यात्राएं हैं, भूमि हैं जिस पर हम लोग जुड़े रहे। और अगर आश्रम के वो पहले साधक हैं आश्रम के जिनसे मेरा परिचय हुआ, माँ श्री अरविंद से परिचय के बाद बैंगलोर भवन में जब हम रुके हुए थे तो वहाँ प्रथम कोई आश्रम के कोई कांटेक्ट जिसको कहा जाए तो महेश्वरी जी आए थे और वहाँ उनसे परिचय हुआ था। और बहुत सुंदर कई अनुभव हुए उसके बाद। बहुत अच्छी, वो कई बार आके हमारे घर में भी रहे, एकदम परिवार की ही तरह रहा हूँ। जैसे उनका बहुत बड़ा परिवार था तो उनमें से एक मैं भी था और हूँ। एक छोटी सी घटना मैं बताना चाहूँगा। बहुत सारी घटनाएं हैं, उनमें से एक हमारे बच्चे का युयुत्सु का यहाँ एडमिशन हो गया था आश्रम स्कूल में। और स्वाभाविक है कि फिर ये बात हुई कि भाई घर कहाँ है, कैसे है, हम आएंगे। तो वो हमारे कांटेक्ट थे तो हमने उनसे पूछा तो उन्होंने बस इतना कहा कि माँ ने बुलाया है, उन्होंने सब अरेंज करके रखा है, तुम्हें केवल डिस्कवर करना है। अब ये बात एक लेवल पे तो समझ आती है लेकिन दूसरी लेवल पर प्रैक्टिकल माइंडेड कि डिस्कवर करना है, कैसे डिस्कवर करेंगे। खैर, हम लोग थोड़े दिन गेस्ट हाउस में रुके थे। मैं तो चला गया था, कविता और युद्ध रुके थे। और फिर जब घर की बात हुई तो उनका घर उस समय बन रहा था तो उन्होंने वही पीस अपार्टमेंट में अपने ही घर में उन्होंने कहा कि तुम यहाँ रह सकते हो। वो स्वयं अभी जहाँ अर्चना जी रहती हैं वहाँ पे रहते थे। तो वो घर जो उन्होंने दिया ये तो एक बात है, लेकिन सबसे अद्भुत बात ये थी कि जब किराए देने की बात आई, नॉर्मली आम तौर पर लोग घर देते हैं उसके पहले आप एक लीगल बॉन्ड भरते हो, पहले डिपॉजिट देते हो, उसके बाद हर एक महीने आपको रेंट देना होता है। तो हमने जब पापा से पूछा तो पापा ने कहा कि ये तो माँ का प्रसाद है। तो हमने कहा प्रसाद तो ठीक है, लेकिन इसमें आप 1.5-2 साल उससे भी ऊपर हम रहे, पापा ने एक पैसा रेंट नहीं लिया। और ये नहीं कि मैं दे नहीं सकता था, एयरफोर्स में अच्छी नौकरी थी, इस तरह का व्यक्तित्व। और कभी भी ये बाहर किसी को बताई जाए तो विश्वास करने योग्य बात नहीं है कि रियली टू लिव इन द स्पिरिट ऑफ द गीता। गीता उनके केवल उन्होंने गीता को पढ़ा नहीं था, उस भाव में, उस सत्य में वो जीते थे। और दूसरी चीज़ जो उनकी बड़ी मदर पुस्तक, उस पर स्वाध्याय, ये तो प्राय सभी को पता है, लेकिन एक अनुभव जब उन्होंने स्वाध्याय माता पुस्तक पे बेंगलोर में कर रहे थे तो उस समय कविता को एक इतना सुंदर अनुभव हुआ था। और उस दिन स्वाध्याय में, उस समय ये सब नहीं था, वेबिनार और ये सब लिंक, तो 3 लोग मौजूद थे। और वो एक प्रकार का, जब वो माता पुस्तक पढ़ते थे तो कुछ अद्भुत, एक कई लोग इस बात को अनुभव करते थे उस वातावरण में रहकर, जो बहुत ही विशेष एक उपस्थिति होती थी। और स्वाध्याय की बात तो हम लोगों ने सुनी ही। अस्तु, बहुत कुछ है जो आई एम श्योर कई लोगों ने शेयर किया होगा। और एक बात जो वो भी कहते थे, छुट नारायण जी भी कहते थे, हरि अनंत हरि कथा अनंता। मैं उसमें ऐड कर दूं हरि भक्तों की कथा अनंता, क्योंकि वो हरि से जुड़े हैं तो देर आर नो लिमिट्स टू व्हाट वन कैन स्पीक। लेकिन एक बात जो पापा ने अभी बताई कि कोई न्यूरोफिजियोलॉजिस्ट इस विषय में शायद प्रकाश डाल सके, तो इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है। और अब ये न्यूरोफिजियोलॉजिकल स्टडीज़ में भी हम देख रहे हैं कि पुराना जो कंसेप्ट था कि ब्रेन की सेल्स ग्रो नहीं करती हैं एक उम्र के बाद, तो अब ये नया कंसेप्ट है कि नहीं, वो ना केवल ग्रो करती हैं, वो अपने फंक्शंस चेंज कर सकती हैं। तो निश्चित रूप से इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं कि जैसे मंत्र है, जैसे ये स्क्रिप्चर्स हैं, जब हम इनको एक सही ढंग से पढ़ते हैं, केवल पढ़ते नहीं है बाहर से, बल्कि हम गहराई में उतरते हैं, स्क्रिप्चर्स के साथ साथ हम अपनी ही गहराई में उतरते हैं। तो वो ब्रेन एक ऐसा माध्यम है जिसके माध्यम से सारी चीज़ें रूट होती हैं, वो एक राउटर है। और निश्चित रूप से उसके अंदर प्रकंपन आते हैं, उसके अंदर चेंजेस आते हैं। इतना कहने के बाद अब आगे जो बात है ऑन स्क्रिप्चर्स, आई हैव बीन आस्क्ड टू स्पीक ऑन स्क्रिप्चर्स फॉर 10-15 मिनट्स। सो व्हाट एग्जैक्टली आर स्क्रिप्चर्स? We have within us the divine presence, and all around is the divine presence. But how to come in contact with the divine presence? This is the question. As I always say, the only question worth asking in this life. Only question. If there is divine, how to find him? If there is no divine, there are no questions, no answers, nothing is really worth asking. So, if there is the divine, how to find him? And in that process, we see there are many, many ways and methods. It's amazing. India is like, I must say that 1,000 times if I would like to be born, it would be India, nowhere else. Because there are many things you just discover. You grow up with it. And one of them is study of scriptures. These study of scriptures, among many other methods like meditation, concentration, bhakti, seva, these are methods given to us to throw a bridge between us and God, if we want to put it like that. But when we use the word bridge, we must understand what a bridge entails. We can imagine a scripture like a lamp which we carry with us when we are moving in the night of ignorance through a dense forest. We need some kind of lamp. We don't know. Of course, if there are rare persons who have the direct guidance of the guru, the guide, or are awakened within. But most of the time, for most of us, there is need of a word, a scripture. And a scripture is not just any word or any writing. It is a revealed word, meaning thereby that someone has received it, a great rishi or a drishta, one who has seen the truth, has entered into a certain state of consciousness, and then that state of consciousness, that truth, has taken the form of thought and word and speech. That's all it means. So, speech here is only a vehicle. Thought here is a vehicle, or we can say it's like a capsule which is given to us in which so scripture is like a vehicle or a capsule through which that is being given to us which is beyond the scripture. So when we are moving through the dense night of ignorance, most of the people often they say, no, we'll find everything by ourselves. Very good, try finding even, when we are in the dense darkness, try finding even the way to your washroom. Forget about finding God. But there are people who are very arrogant. They believe that they can do everything by themselves. But scripture comes to help us. So it is like a lamp which we carry when we are walking through the dense night of ignorance. What is its role? Where does the role of the scripture end? Does it end at all or not? Now that's where Sri Aurobindo reveals in a number of aphorisms. Scripture is like the lamp we carry when we are in the darkness, but this lamp is meant to take us to the very source of light which we see embodied in that little lamp. When we have that experience, that realization which is embodied in the scripture, when the sun shines over the limitless horizons of our sight, of our inner mind, then the scripture is no more necessary. So this is how the Gita puts it, Sabda Brahmati Vartate. So there are two kinds of approaches we may take to the scripture. One is a very dogmatic approach where we just weave the meaning of words. And we are busy with grammar, etymology, we are busy with all kinds of shabdik arth of a scripture. Now this is okay, this is a good exercise, it helps the intellectual mind to dwell a little more. But most important is that there is a deeper truth contained in the scripture that we must try to attain to. And this deeper truth, paradoxically, comes when instead of analyzing it with the mind, intellectual mind, we actually make the mind fall silent and simply, like a mantra, as when the mantra sings in yoga's ear, as a mantra, we read a verse from the scripture, we read a line, we read just a phrase, then it has the power to change our life. I myself remember reading this phrase from Sri Aurobindo, all life is yoga. And it was so revealing. So a scripture has several layers within it. There is the outermost body, which is a word and the encasement. But word is to understand a scripture by the word is to try to understand a book and its meaning by simply seeing the cover. So or trying to understand the dweller of a house by simply looking at the house from outside and admiring it. One is to enter the house, and not only enter the house, pass through all the rooms, not only pass through the rooms, one has to eventually come in contact with the owner of the house, meet him, and then one can understand the grand plan which was there in his mind when this house came into existence. So something similar is there with this scripture, that it's a revealed word, and a revealed word can be best understood by entering into a state of revelation, and the scripture is meant to take us to that. So when we understand scripture only in their narrow word like sense, then we have several interpretations, then we have even sometimes dogma. We see certain religions how they have become very dogmatic, and then also there is the big problem which is there in some of these scriptures. Sri Aurobindo points that out in these very beautiful writing, Interpretation of Scriptures, where he says, what is the vehicle? It is the body of words. And so first we must be sure that the words which are there are the words which have been originally written, because there are times when they have undergone certain changes, certain distortions. Second thing, we must know that any scripture, however great, is one angle of vision seen by a great rishi. It is not the first and the last revelation. Because to say that God has revealed himself in a particular age to a group of exalted human beings is to actually deny God, because he is infinite. How can his revelations be over in one particular age or in one or a few persons? So the scripture is eternal. It is not something which begins and ends in an epoch of time, or begins and ends with one human being or a few human beings. It is like an eternal unfolding of the eternal, and this scripture is continuously unfolding itself, and many more revelations which are yet to come in many languages through many human beings who will be aspirants on the path of truth. So this is how it is going to unfold itself. So this is the first aspect of the scripture, that it is an aspect or an angle through which a truth has been revealed to us, but we have to go beyond and eventually recover the whole. If we don't recover the whole, then we may get lost into one. That's how cults and sects are formed, when we take that angle and we remain confined to that angle. So it's like when we read the Gita, we can think of Shri Krishna only as, the hero and the leader of the Mahabharata, which of course he is. But Shri Krishna is much more. He is, immense light and thou. He is hid beyond space and time. We have that glimpse in the Gita, but it's not enough to read it. It's not enough to go into the etymology of words and imagine that or conceive it. Even the highest human conceptions falls short of the truth that is revealed in a scripture. So the second is, one is the scripture, the second is the drishta. Who has given the scripture is the drishta. Drishta is the seer. So we have to, through the scripture is also a bridge between us and the consciousness of the seer who has given us the scripture. So one of the ways to come in contact, let us say in this yoga, between the consciousness of Sri Aurobindo and the mother and we, is simply through the word. The word becomes a bridge between us and him. But we can also say, put it the other way around, that if one is in contact with Sri Aurobindo and the mother through an awakening of bhakti, through faith, then one finds the meaning of the scripture revealed very naturally and spontaneously. It becomes very sahaj. Because ultimately it is that consciousness of the drishta which is important. And to understand the consciousness of the drishta, there must be drishti. So if I don't have a drishti, I may be explained all about the swan which is found in the Himalayan regions. But if I have never ever seen a swan or never conceived a swan, then I may well mistake him to be a kingfisher. So it's important to develop the drishti, the inner sight, and arrive at that. So one should never be satisfied with the word meaning of a scripture, but always strive for the experience that is beyond the word. This is the second aspect. And finally, it is the knowledge which is contained within it. So what is that knowledge which is contained within the scripture? It is the knowledge which is eternal, meaning thereby it is not born with a particular rishi who gave a book. It is there right from the time that creation has started, even before creation. That's why Sri Aurobindo reveals this in the very beginning. The eternal Veda is secret within the heart of every living creature, every conscious creature. And this has many pages. It reveals itself, it opens itself petal by petal so beautifully. So the Veda is secret in everybody's heart. And as we go through, and what opens the petals? The experiences of life. As we come through the contacts of life and its various experiences, the petals open. Unfortunately, in a lifetime, sometimes we just read not even half a page, but maybe half a phrase of the eternal Veda. How much more beautiful if we could, read not just the whole book, because the whole book of the divine is never to be read, but take that as an opening, as a means to enter much deeper and discover that truth from which a scripture is born. So this is the short part of it, and I'll just like to read a little passage from Sri Aurobindo where he speaks about the scripture. Knowledge is the eternal truth, part of which the Drishta expresses to us. Through the part he shows us, we must travel to the whole. Otherwise, we shall be subject to the errors incidental to an imperfect knowledge. So we must travel to the whole. And one of the most beautiful example is Shri Krishna himself, or the mother, when Sri Aurobindo starts by revealing to us who the mother is. And when he says the one whom we adore as the mother is the supreme transcendent, supreme divine force, divine consciousness. So this is the door to arrive at that truth. If even the part is to be rightly understood, it must be viewed in the terms of the whole, not the whole in the terms of the part. This is the great mistake that many religions have made, that they've picked up a part revelation and they have stopped there and taken it to be the whole. But the beauty, one of the beauty of Indian thought, Indian civilization, Indian culture, call it Indian spirituality, because it has developed in the Indian continent. Spirituality doesn't belong to any denomination, but it's been developed and safeguarded here, or to use the ancient word Sanatan Dharma, that it has not stopped either with one revelation, one scripture, or one yogi. It has gone on multiplying facets after facets of the infinite. And always striven to go beyond. So that is something very beautiful, that it is an ever progressive unfolding. On the contrary, I am not limited by the scripture. On the contrary, I must exceed them in order to be master of their knowledge. It is true that we are usually the slaves of our individual and limited outlook, but our capacity is unlimited. And if we can get rid of ahankara, Sri Aurobindo is giving us now the secret. When we speak of the word self-study. So what is the self we study? We go to the highest self, the deepest self within us. All else is layer by layer, we have to go further. So the mind understands the body of words, the vital or the heart gets thrilled, or it responds in a certain way. The senses receive the same knowledge in another way. But we go deeper and deeper till we touch that core. If we can put ourselves at the service of the infinite without any reservation of predilection or opinion, there is no reason why our realization should be limited. So another very beautiful way to understand the scripture is to put it into practice, service. To understand the Gita, face the battle of life in grim earnest. In reality, it's not just an allegory or just a symbolic thing. So those who run away from the battle of life into some sannyas ashram and talk about the Gita, the first qualification is lost. So one faces the battle of life. In the battlefield, Gita has been given. And not only that, if one starts living even a little bit of it, swalpamasya dharmasya, so one gets freed from much, liberated from much fear. There is no reason why our realization should be limited. Tasmin vigyate sarvam vigyatam. He being known, all can be known. To understand scripture, so scripture is not just a book. When we touch that core of knowledge, then everything from the smallest thing, from a grain of sand, can become a revelatory truth. The sun, the moon, the river, the mountains, human interactions, the manifold human activities, art and science and dance and drama, everything can be understood on the basis of this truth. Tasmin vigyate sarvam vigyatam. To know what the Drishta saw, one must oneself have Drishti, sight, and be a student, if not a master of knowledge. Atha parayaya tad aksharam adhigamayate. Grammar, etymology, prosody, astronomy, metaphysics, logic, all that is good. But afterwards, there is still needed the higher knowledge by which the immutable is known. Let me close with a beautiful aphorism of Sri Aurobindo. The Vedanta is God's lamp to lead thee out of this night of bondage and egoism. But when the light of Veda has dawned in thy soul, here Veda is not just a book, but the secret knowledge with, then even that divine lamp thou needest not, for now thou canst walk freely and surely in high and eternal sunlight. And finally, act according to the Shastra rather than thy self will and desire. So shalt thou grow stronger to control the ravener in thee. So he speaks of the three stages of human progress. One is when we live only by desire, whatever people feel like. So whatever I feel like, that is the truth, and I live according to that. Now that life leads to a chaos, progressive chaos and degeneration within our own individual and collective life. So there is the Shastra. Shastra is given to control that. But act according to God rather than the Shastra. That's what we see, always the ultimate truth. That, however, if there is a choice between Shastra and God's direct vision, experience, and revelation within us, intuition within us, then act according to God. So shall thou reach to his highest, which is far above rule and limit. And the last one, the law is for the bound and those whose eyes are sealed. If they walk not by it, they will stumble. But thou who art free in Krishna, or hast seen his living light, walk holding the hand of thy friend and by the lamp of the eternal Veda. I close with this little symbol. We were talking about the lamp. Now when we have the lamp, which is the scripture, we have to still use our eyes, look around wherever the light is falling. It helps us. Now imagine if instead of the lamp we have the Lord himself or the Divine Mother and she holds our hand. What are we going to do? Will we still try to worry and peer our eyes to see what is there? We know that she is there with us. All that we'll say is Ma, carry us to the goal, and simply say Ma, 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 Ma. Namaste.